So there are two things that I really wanted to talk about. Just to really, wrap this up, which I found was, two things that really blew my mind. One of them was talking about procrastination, and it goes along the same idea. It's like, if you decide to procrastinate, first of all, huge problem, right? Like you said, 92% of people
Sure.
actually, no, 95% of people say that they procrastinate, and the 5% of people are lying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Everyone procrastinates.
yeah, so one of the big predictors that you said of procrastination was impulsivity itself.
hmm yeah. I mean, it's because with with any goal, you don't see the fact that you're going to wake up. You're going to wake up and you're going to be tired and you're not going to want to do it, or it's going to be the end of a long day and you're not going to want to do it. You just don't see yourself in those situations that are just so human, of being tired and exhausted, or having some other life event coming up and getting in the way. And once we decide, once we even start asking ourselves whether or not we should do this thing or put it off for another day, then it's the debate in your head, right? And no matter what, if you really want to procrastinate this thing, you're going to come up with a justification in your head that says, "Yep, that is a perfectly great thing to do. Like, you'll be able to make up for it 1,000 times tomorrow, and what you really deserve is to put it off for another day for whatever thing it is." That's absolutely accurate.
So there's one topic that, really puts this all together, and I think, gets right into impulsivity and all these things. It's the difference
hmm
between, really what is willpower, and then you also describe these concepts are what is willpower, want power, and won't power. And, how do they
Yeah,
really impact us being able to achieve our goals?
sure. Okay, so this was a concept by Stanford health psychologist Kelly McGonigal. I highly recommend her book Willpower and also The Upside of Stress. Uh, this these are or She breaks willpower down into three different categories. Willpower. So this is getting up, going for a run, pushing yourself during that run, uh, pushing yourself to read something or write a book or whatever it is where you really want to quit on something or you don't want to do it and you push yourself to get it done. That's willpower. Willpower is what most people think about when they think about willpower. This is the ability to resist temptation. So the ability to resist food or resist I don't know the resist temptations of any kind. That's willpower. And then want power is the motivation you feel when you consider your long-term goals or your higher aspirations. So I believe I brought this up in the book, but this is imagine a boss who gets a lot of attention from an attractive young coworker. If that boss is married, he will be much more able to resist the temptation because he has a wife, he has kids, he has the ability to say no for a higher purpose. Like, either way, any kind of sexual attention from an attractive young coworker for a boss is not a good idea. If that person is not married, it's going to be harder for that person to resist because they don't have that higher commitment to something bigger. And the more we can focus or create situations where we are committed to something big that we really believe in. These could be principles, they could be dreams or aspirations of us, they could be associations with our identity. So if we believe that we are the type of person who resists some temptations, or the type of person who finishes strong, for example, or the type of person who doesn't quit when they're writing a book, like, that commitment to being that type of person is much stronger and gives us more willpower than if we weren't to make that kind of identity or commitment, and we were just trying to get this done on our own.
Yeah, I mean,
Does that all
personally,
make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely expand on that because when I read that, that is essentially the premise behind my entire book, summed up in such
Mm,
a beautiful statement. You know, when we talk about breaking bad habits, and that's won't power, right? I want to stop
yep.
smoking. I want to resist these bad foods.
Yeah.
I want to get off, like video games, television, social media, like all these terrible things that
hmm
pornography, right? In this case, we're talking about sexual appeal from coworkers and
hmm
our won't power and our willpower are somewhat finite resources. They kind of run out. We could sort of justify our way around them. But in
hmm
my book, I think one of the most powerful things that one of the most powerful lessons that I have in there is want power, the ability to bring your mind from the present moment to the things that you really care about, from the current
hmm
temptations to your long-term wants, like your relationships, your goals, all these things. That's a
hmm
separate store inside your brain. It's an extra tank that just is sort of sitting next to you of energy, and you could use it if you really want to. If you're trying to resist a cigarette
hmm
and you're saying I shouldn't do that because it's bad for me, it's like, okay, that's won't power, but 70% of current cigarette smokers actually say that they want to quit but can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then if you're sitting, with your cigarettes, and there was a great story that Tony Robbins talked about. And Tony Robbins said that there was a man who was smoking, and really bad smoker, like you know dozens a day. And one day his wife gets his 5-year-old daughter to run into his office crying, and say, I want you to be there for my marriage, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
and that really dug into his want power. So now, every time that he thinks about smoking, he's not thinking, I shouldn't really do this. The image of his
Yeah.
daughter pops up right in his head. And it's like,
hmm
wow, that is the thing that's going to help you, really resist.
Yeah. I was going to bring up that as well. It's the number one thing that helps alcoholics quit too is thinking about their kids, is thinking about the impact that their alcoholism is having on other people besides themselves. Because we can sacrifice our own self image a lot easier than we can hurt other people that we love and care about.
That's so interesting. I'm literally writing that down because
Yeah.
it's so true. It's like, why would you really dissociate, like especially something as big as smoking, or helping with your health or things like that? Why would you want to dissociate it from your main life goals, especially if
hmm
we're saying, and this is a great way to end it, actually. When you set a goal, you want to have one main goal, and then every single thing that you do should be in achievement of that goal. So
Yeah. Yeah.
let's say your goal in life is to be a good parent for your kids. It's such a great example. If you do
hmm
that, then you decide to associate getting rid of smoking, or eating healthier, or going on a diet, or working out. If you decide to associate that within the realm of being a good parent for your kids, so if you're saying smoking, unhealthy eating, spending too much time on media, all these things actually make you a worse parent, then that aligns you under that one goal. But if you detach those
hmm
goals, if you decide to say, you know what, I am going to, on one hand, I am going to be a good parent for my kids, and on the other hand, I'm going to be a good employee, and on the other hand,
hmm
I'm going to quit smoking. If you decide to detach those, then it's the same thing as trying to chop at different parts of the tree instead of trying to chop at the
Yeah.
same exact part of the tree and really take down that goal altogether.
Sure. So, what would you say is your one overarching goal that you can feed everything into?
I love that. I love that. Now I'm taking questions.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
my overarching goal is I want to have as much influence on the general population as I possibly can, because I found
Hmm.
that I really believe that I wanted to be a clinical psychologist when I got older, right?
Hmm.
And maybe you could
Okay.
agree with me on this. So I was like, you know, I want to be a clinical psychologist. And what do clinical psychologists do? They deal with the depressed, they deal with the anxious, they deal with all those people. And I'm like, you know, that would
Mm-hmm.
be cool if I could really help those people. But what I found is that, you know, for every single one person that goes to a psychologist, there are 100 people that either don't have the guts, don't have the money, or don't have the or aren't bad enough to go out
Mm-hmm.
and see a psychologist. You know, there's a sort of general neurosis, I'll call it, or a
Mm-hmm.
general you know, depression, anxiety, all these things that exist in the general
Mm-hmm.
population. And it really bothers
Sure.
me. It's like, you know, if I wanted to become a psychologist, I'd only be helping the people who are in touch with themselves enough to figure it out, and at the same time, the people who are bad enough. And I think that, you know, just giving that little improvement to other people's lives, you know, by helping them break a bad
Sure.
habit, helping them find their purpose, you know, all these things, and just helping the general population. That's definitely my goal. And I'd love either you could answer that, or I'd love for you to tell me yours.
Well, I think that's definitely. I now work in healthcare, and the number one thing that I'm concerned about is the mental health crisis that will take place over the next 10 years because of exactly what you're talking about. The rising rate of anxiety and depression, mostly from the technology that we're using these days, is not a good sign for the mental health of our society. So I think that's definitely a worthwhile goal, and I wish you nothing but the best in pursuit of that. One of the reasons why I wanted to know is because figuring out what mine was one of the most important things, because like you said, all of a sudden everything started to filter through that goal. And that was helping individuals use the tools of science to take control of their future.
Hmm.
So I've been able to do that a lot. Like this book, that was me trying to achieve part of that goal, was to help people understand the science of their own willpower in order for them to help take control of their future and create the type of life that they really want for themselves. After this, I started working with other thought leaders to build apps that would help people implement their advice on an ongoing basis and actually track the results over time. Because I realized that I'm not necessarily always the best to be doing that. And now a lot of it is working with companies to help them implement the scientific method when it comes to developing new products, so they can learn what new products are actually going to make a difference in people's lives and which ones are just a waste of time and money and energy that's not going to make any difference at all.
Wow. And I mean, I have so much respect for the things that you're doing, because actually there is I forget which study proved it, but there is an 8-year delay in a research study coming out, you know, scientific
Mm,
you know, things being proven, and it actually making an impact in the real world and being used in companies
sure.
and being implemented. And I find that, you know, having people like you, having people who are also in touch with the science, who are in touch with the scientific method, and
Hmm.
you know, really in touch with all of the important things that are going on in the scientific world, and using that to actually make an impact on people's lives, you know, that's, you know, what's the purpose of science if it doesn't help us? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.